We are officially live on YouTube, Insta, Facebook, and Periscope. All right, let's get into it. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's see, we got Joe Tran. Let us know where you're from. We got folks from Russia, India, Myanmar, all over the world. Okay, Insta, good morning to you, Insta. I miss you. I didn't go live yesterday. I said I'm going to go live today, Monday morning. We got a lot to cover. I got a few topics I want to cover with you, but I want you to be thinking about one name here. I'll give you one name, and then I'll give you my message on what I want you to be thinking about. And then a few topics we'll be covering together with me. We may talk a little bit about football. A song that I can't get out of my brain. I've listened to this song probably 200 times on repeat since last Thursday. We'll talk a little Deshaun Watson. He and I had a little bit of an escapade this past week. The shutdown, government shutdown, some numbers on sedans, on how we're buying cars in America and what that means to you and I, on which types of cars we're buying more, sedans, pickup truck, SUVs. Bit of Bezo's divorce. A lot of people are asking me about Bezo's divorce, maybe the Vol Conference. I got something to call out with Tim Cook from Apple. Some things Elon Musk is going through right now. Movies, maybe a little bit of Megyn Kelly, election, and then we should be done from there. But let's go back to this name. I want you to be thinking about this name. John Michael Landy. Have you ever heard of the name John Michael Landy? Have you? Who is John Michael Landy? I don't know who John Michael Landy is. You know, a lot of times, this past week I was in San Antonio, and I got up, and I was giving a speech in San Antonio, and all these guys were in town, and I had a few guys that came to visit me in Dallas, a guy named Ricky and Erica, his wife Erica. We were sitting down talking, and I said, you know, in life, you got two different types of people, both in family and in business. You got the Me Too's, and you got the First Two's. Let me explain. Me Too, First Two. What's the difference between a Me Too and a First Two? The group of Me Too is the following. Like, for instance, if your mom got a degree and you also got a degree, you followed your mom's footsteps, you joined the Me Too group, which is, Mom, I got my degree too. My dad had a degree, my mom had a degree, I got a degree. Great job. My dad went in the military, my mom was in the military, I also went in the military, me too. You know, my dad was making six figures, I also make six figures, I'm also me too. You know, and then there is the First Two. There's a big difference between a Me Too and the First Two. First Two is when in your family, I asked in San Antonio, I said, stand up. If you are the first two, do something in your family. Hands went up. One lady got up and she said, I am the first to not get pregnant before getting married, get a degree, and have a son that didn't end up in prison and went to college. In my family, I'm the first two. I said, you're a hero in your family because you're the first two. Another kid got up and he said, you know, where I grew up at, I personally witnessed 25 people get shot. My brother got shot from a bullet from here, there, and I'm the first to get a degree in my family. Great. Another guy got up and he said, I'm the first to make six figures in my family. Phenomenal. Another one got up and said, I'm the first to go out there and build my own business in my family. Great. So there's the First Two, there's the Me Too, right? The name John Michael Landy, the only reason you don't know that name is because he is the second to run a 4-minute mile. Let me explain this to you. The first person who ever ran the mile in less than 4 minutes was Roger Bannister. Everyone knows Roger Bannister. God knows how many motivational quotes you read about Roger Bannister, how many videos, how many, 60-second videos for, Instagram, for Twitter, for YouTube. You see all this stuff about Roger Bannister, Roger Bannister, Roger Bannister. But nobody talks about Michael Landy. Why doesn't anybody talk about John Michael Landy? It's because he's the second to break the 4-minute mile, not the first. He's the second. And by the way, he did it faster than Bannister did, but he's the second. Because he's the second, you don't remember that name. You remember Roger Bannister. So, Pat, I'm not getting what you're saying here. Look, there's two things when we're talking about Me Too's and First Two. One is personal life. The other one is business life. For me, it was very important for us as the David family when we came to America to be able to set an example to say, we're going to be the first to go out there and win, and everyone's going to look at the Bay David family and be proud of it. When we walk into family gatherings, I remember one time I went to a Christmas party, and my family was there. And I was 23 years old, 24 years old, and I walked in. And they're like, oh, Patrick's here. How you doing, Pat? What's going on? So how's the party life? And that's what they were asking me. And then I said, why is it that everybody's asking me about partying? Maybe that's what they think about me. Here's the guy that's military and he parties. Interesting. I said, I don't like people to ask me just about partying and just about military. I wanted to change it, and it changed. One setting, one situation, and then the family has a different conversation saying, hey, Patrick, but David, how are things, man? I hear good things are going on in the family and the business and all this other stuff. Language completely changed because we became the first to, right? So on the personal life, whatever that accolades may be, 100,000, a million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever that number is, you got to be the first in your family to do something. Set the pace for everybody else to follow. On the business side, whatever industry you're a part of, you got to also be the first to. It doesn't matter what it is. When I was in the financial industry, nobody in the insurance and the financial industry was really going out there and trying to build their own brand and, you know, get that side of the business going. It was so compliance. You know, you shouldn't go out there and build your brand for yourself. I said, no, we got to go out there and do something about that. You know, we became the first to do a lot of different things on the business side, on the valuetainment side. But there's the me too and there's the first to. For you, 2019, there are some things in your business and your personal life. You got to say, I want to be the first to do X, Y, Z. Because if you're the second to do it, you are John Michael Landy. And the only people that remember John Michael Landy is the Landy family and the people that work closely to him. Everybody else will only remember Roger Bannister. It's very simple. Listen, let me give you some stats here for you to think about. In sports, who's the first to ever score 100 points? Do you know the name? It's Will Chamberlain. In the NBA, do you know who played the most minutes in a single game? A game has 48 minutes. The guy that played the most minutes in a single game is a guy named Dale Ellis. I don't even know if you know who Dale Ellis is. He played 69 minutes in a game. That's a record, right? 69 minutes in a game. The person who shot the most free throws in a game without making it is Shaq. That's a record. Harden has the most points in a triple-double. He scored 60 points. He's a first to. Klay Thompson scored 37 points in a quarter. That's a record. He's the first to. No one's ever done that before. You got to strive for a first to in 2019, whatever that may be that you're doing. Anyways, that's something for you to be thinking about. Again, we do have a number here for some of you guys to text in. We may take a couple calls on this message, on this live broadcast that we're doing. The number is, if we can put it up, O'Neill, it's 747-260-8461. Let me see, we've got New York in town. We got some people want to know some high-income skills. We may talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about BizDoc since you brought it up. Guys, here's one thing about BizDoc you guys need to know about. Tom created a lot of great content for us, but one of the things on the business side that I run on the PHP side, I sat down with a board. We made a decision to go a complete different direction. And once we made that decision, we wished Tom the best. We gave him all the additional perks we could to make sure he was fine to make his transition to his next career. But he's no longer with us. So because he was no longer with us, we also stopped creating the content because when he was here, every day was easier to create content. So Tom's no longer here. We did wish him nothing but the best. So do not expect any content from Tom anytime soon. But that's one of the transitions that took place with Tom. I think everybody's been asking about it. We made the announcements on a couple different platforms, but apparently we did it on YouTube. So now you know about it. So moving forward, everyone can kind of let each other know in the community. That's what took place with Tom. All right, let's go into a couple things. The song, Miranda, the song I've been listening to a few hundred times. Mariel, one of our employees, sent me this text. She said, Pat, you got to listen to this song. It's called Raven George, featuring Oscar and the World, called You're Mine. You ever heard of that song? Nancy, have you listened to that song before? No, Miranda, have you? O'Neill, you heard this song? You probably heard me playing it 24/7 in the background. Can we, by the way, is YouTube okay if we play it or no? If we play a snippet of it? Or is YouTube going to cut this video if we play a snippet of this song? I cannot stop listening to this song. Let me see if I got it here on my computer. Oh my gosh, that song to me, it's here, let me pull it up. I should have iTunes here. Let me ask you, if I have iTunes here, would it also save it on my phone or no? Raven something is what I said, right? Here's how the song goes, just so everybody knows. Oh my gosh, I've been listening to this thing God knows how many times. Hang on, let's pull it up here. Let's see if we do have it. This is the one. The video is a little weird. You got to know, looks very, very weird. But the song is just, it's like one of these. Oh my gosh. I've had this thing on repeat nonstop for the last week. If you're looking for a good song, go download the song. You may not like it. I like the song. Okay, that's enough. Maybe YouTube's going to shut it down. If you want to listen to, put a link below for people to go listen to. Cannot stop listening to the song. Okay, couple things. Deshaun Watson. Here's what happened with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. Last week, he lost to the Indianapolis Colts. 3 days later, he was at the Clemson Tiger game. When they won, Houston Texans, Clemson Tiger fans, if you saw this on Instagram, you already know my position, but a couple thoughts for the people that are on YouTube that maybe you didn't see it. I sent a tweet because Deshaun Watson posted a video of himself at the game celebrating 3 days after they lost. And he seemed all excited. 3 days after he lost to the Colts, which he should have beaten the Colts, he loses to the Colts. He's out there celebrating at the Clemson Tigers. And I posted a tweet. Up. I've been working. I haven't checked my Twitter account all day, and then all of a sudden, I get a couple thousand tweets. And as Deshaun Watson retweeted this tweet, and I think it got some 56,000 likes, and he said, "You're in your feelings because I'm cheering on my former university to win." Life, and I told Roland Smith, you know, he said Deshaun Watson can do whatever he wants to do with his life. I said, you're right, Deshaun Watson can do whatever he wants to do with his life. But on a side note, I suggested Roland Smith spend a little bit more time on the treadmill and maybe stay away from the Cheetos, Doritos, Twix, Kit Kat, and some of this other stuff, unless if you own stock in that company, then I understand. I think he used to be a where it hopefully does something for you. You know, for me, I think sometimes people don't use pain as a motivator. Pain from a loss where if something happens, it's kind of weird if you lose a loved one 3 days later, you're at a nightclub celebrating. You know, if you have a massive loss, right after a loss, you go to a nightclub celebrating, I kind of have a problem with that. I can't see a guy like Brady. I can't see a guy like, you know, the killers in the game that have that killer instinct to be doing that. But, you know, I said that. They came back. They said, how dare you say something like this? This kid's just celebrating his former team. Yes, but his former team won. I go back and I look at my career and the people that I've seen win big time, they remember a massive loss. The head coaches that I know that really drive their teammates and their players, they always show videotapes of the loss and what reporters said. They have their editors create all the hate. And this person said this, and that person said this, and this person said this, and they put it all over their locker room. Listen to what Stephen A. Smith said about you. This is what, you know, Kellerman said about you. This is what, you know, Skip Bayless said about you. And they use this as motivation. Here's what New York Times said about you. Here's what ESPN, Fox said about you. Look at the way this felt when they lost. Look at your face. How did you feel? Look at that pain. That's what a lot of coaches use. Because do you want to experience that pain again? You know, when Sugar Ray Leonard fought against Roberto Duran many years ago, and Duran just absolutely embarrassed him. He went into depression. He had pain. 3 years later, he comes back and wins single-handedly, and then Roberto Duran says, no mas, no mas, no mas, and they make a documentary about it. What happened there? Sugar Ray Leonard used that pain to do something about it. You know, the average fan, oh, I lost. You know, it is what it is. It's okay. I'm going to come back. It's going to be fine. Yeah, I don't know about the great ones being wired that way. And so that message was just to challenge some of us, because sometimes, you read so many things about perfect parenting. Perfect parents. I've seen so many kids come out of perfect parents, loving mom, loving dad, church going, everything was right, and kid ends up doing nothing with their lives. 4 of them. And I see sometimes kids come out of parents that one of the mom didn't do well and one of the mom, dad was away or mom was away or whatever it is. And one of the kids uses that pain to say, you left me, watch what I'm going to do, AKA Steve Jobs. You give me up for adoption, I'm going to show the world you should have never given me up for adoption. Steve Jobs becomes Steve Jobs. You see how many players, father figure not being in the picture, LeBron James becomes LeBron James, that pain. See how many actors that said, man, I just want to prove a point. How many presidents, AKA Barack Obama? How many people do you see that that's some pain that they came up with? Bill Clinton had some pain from his mother. He doesn't like to talk about it a lot. But if you read about Bill Clinton's mother, you see some stuff there. There's some of this pain that leads to somebody wanting to do something big with their lives. And I think so many times all we're looking for is a perfect situation, everything to be lined up. And I think you ought to give a little bit more credit to the difficult times in your life, not the easy times in your life. I am a byproduct of living in Iran, being bombed on, seeing people dying left and right. We would drive, and I'll never forget the scene when I'm driving over the bridge, and then a massive flash behind us takes place, and the next thing you know, my dad says, don't look behind you. My sister and I look behind us, and a white Renault is what my parents were driving at. If you don't know what a Renault is, it spells Renault, R-E-N-A-U-L-T. If you're in Europe, you know what a Renault is, because Renault in Europe is a racing car. And I look behind us. 50 yards behind us, the bridge is just going down, slow motion. You know how you see the movies, the bridge going down? Slow motion, it's going down. We escaped Tehran, went to a city called Karaj, then they bombed Karaj. And then we escaped Karaj, went to a city called Bandar Pahlavi. They bombed Rasht, which is 50 miles outside of Bandar Pahlavi. Everywhere we went, they kept bombing. Saddam Hussein kept bombing. Then we went to Germany, lived at a refugee camp, went into the army. I think you got to appreciate pain. If you're going through pain right now, don't try to figure out ways to make a pain reliever. Like, hey, I don't want to be thinking about the pain I'm going through in my life. No, use that pain as a motivation to do something with it. It could be a comment from an ex. It could be a comment from a parent. It could be a comment from a loved one. It could be a comment from a critic. It could be a comment from a friend that talked behind your back. Use that as motivation. In many ways, I can't believe how many times Jordan used things as motivation. People say you couldn't do it. People said he got lucky one time. People say he can only win 3 times in a row. He can't win 6 of them. Magic has 5. You only have 3. He comes back and wins 6. That's why when he won 6, he went like this. When he won 3, his 4th one, he cried because his father didn't witness the 4th one. And he held a trophy and he was crying on the floor. If you've never seen this before, he ran off when he won his 4th one, went into the locker room, cried straight for 20, 30 minutes. If you haven't seen this, go watch the footage. It's pain. Pain. He won the first without his dad being alive because his dad was killed due to owing some money and gambling and other issues. You got to use pain. I think too many times, I have too many friends and relatives who are constantly trying to avoid using that pain and trying to find a way to recover very quickly from the pain. I like pain. I know it sounds kind of weird, and I think some may even call it, is it masochist? People who like pain, is that the word? Masochists like pain? I'm not talking about sexual stuff, you're a masochist. I don't want some people to say, Patrick's got some other habits. What I'm trying to tell you here is, I like pain. I think pain is just as good for you as pleasure is. Pleasure makes you calm. Pain makes you very focused. You know, Andy Grove wrote a book once called Only the Paranoid Survive. And he was in Silicon Valley competing with a lot of these guys. There was a decade where they call him the greatest CEO we have seen with Intel, what he did. And he wrote this book, Only the Paranoid Survive. And a lot of people say, oh my gosh, that's a bad word. You know, what do you mean paranoid? You got to always be ready. You got to always be ready. So if you're only looking for moments of pleasure, I know a lot of people who miss their 20s, 30s, and they're in their 40s, 50s, because their entire MO was trying to find ways to please themselves and avoid all the pain things that they had in lives. I don't recommend that. Couple things, shutdown. Let's talk about the shutdown a little bit. You know, Global One said, yes, a bit kinky. Only the single guys like this kinky stuff. Maybe we should start a whole different show talking about that. Anyways, let's talk about the shutdown, government shutdown record now, 24 days that it's been going. You know, yesterday I was at San Antonio Airport. When we left DFW Airport, Mario, I got to tell you, the TSA at DFW Airport wasn't as friendly as the TSA at San Antonio. I hope you tag this video with TSA San Antonio or whatever we can do. If San Antonio is watching this, I just watched everybody in San Antonio. These are people that haven't gotten paychecks and they're working. It's not like they're making multi-six-figure year income where they got 50 grand in the bank and they got some savings. These guys are working. They need their $2,200 check or $800 weekly check or whatever that check is. They need that check. They haven't gotten paid. And their attitude was amazing. I couldn't believe it. They didn't get paid, and they're just so positive about the whole thing. So I just wanted to give some love to the TSA people in San Antonio. Much love to you. It means a lot for, a person that's traveling, business, going back and forth, for TSA to be easy. DFW, you got a little bit of improving to do, but I thought TSA in San Antonio was phenomenal. Hope they figured out this shutdown with the wall. Obviously, everybody knows it's a whole political thing that's taking place right now. Democrats know if they can show that Trump didn't deliver on the promise of building a wall, 2020, you're going to see that everywhere. They're going to say, he promised you a wall. He didn't give it to you. So Democrats have to make sure the wall's not built. Trump, on the other hand, knows if he doesn't build the wall, he's going to face this. He knows that whole thing. He's a strategy guy. So that's why he's calling it a national disaster, a national crisis, because if he calls it that, then he can get the wall built up without needing everybody's help and approval. So it's going to be interesting what happens. I just hope they figure out a way to get together in a room and sit down and negotiate and finalize this part. Anyways, let's talk about car market, auto market. Check this out. Check this out, everybody, on what's happened with the auto market. Bloomberg came out with a report. Okay, Bloomberg came out with a report. Here's what the report is. Bloomberg just came out with a report on sedans. Sedans. We have a record-breaking low in sedans, in cars, for a very long time. 30% is what the sales are right now. 30% of cars being sold are sedans. It's projected to be at 21.5% by 2025. Honda Accord and Ford Fusion, record low. There used to be a time in the 90s, everybody bought Honda Accords. I don't know if you remember, everybody had Accords. In the 90s and 2000s, sedans are going away. So when you look at the entire chart, sedans going down, SUVs, sports utility SUVs, is on a big up, big. And then trucks are going up steady. But sedans are on a decline. So why is that? Why are sedans on a decline? People are just not interested in it right now. Obviously, the game is going to change with all these automakers today. They're meeting in Detroit, I believe, this week. And they're all trying to figure out a way how they're going to, change the game. What's going to happen. GM has announced, they announced in November that they're letting go 14,000 of their employees in North America. But it's going to be an interesting game today they're playing. Women are playing a very big role in cars and how cars are being bought, believe it or not. And also at the same time, these electrical cars and cars that drive by themselves, everybody's worried right now. And no one wants to take the lead because of the risk. There's so much liability on the risk of a car driving by itself. You heard what happened with Elon Musk had one of his cars and a person died, and Twitter went at him 24/7 about Tesla, and he took a big hit because of that. So this is not a place where anybody's trying to be the first to. This is a place where somebody wants to be the second or third to do it because they're worried that they want to see somebody else make the mistake, so they follow the footsteps and don't make those same exact mistakes. We'll see what's going to happen with that on the car side. So let's go into Bezo's divorce. Many of you ask me, Pat, what do you think about Bezo's divorce? So many people are entertained and curious about Bezo's divorce. He's a $160 billion guy, give or take. Some say $140 billion, some days $160 billion. His wife's automatically, if it's a 50-50, his wife's automatic because prenuptial didn't exist, a nuptial agreement didn't exist. So automatically, they're saying she's going to be worth $68 billion, which is about 20 plus times more than Oprah Winfrey. Think about that. Overnight, she's worth $68 billion if this were to take place. So I'm out of town and somebody asked me, Pat, why do you think that's taking place? They've been married for 25 years. Why is this happening? And I said, look, a lot of times you see this happen with Reagan, this happened with Trump, this has happened with Bezos, this happens with athletes. This happens with stars. This happens with people that go from being stars to, being no stars to all of a sudden being stars. Let me explain to you. So this is Jeff Bezos 25 years ago when he got married. This is his personal life. This is him in the world. In the world, when people ran into Jeff Bezos, they called him what? Jeff. He's just Jeff. At his house, he was who? Jeff. Fast forward 25 years later, Jeff Bezos is now Jeff Bezos, right? But Jeff Bezos at the house is who? Just Jeff. So Jeff is trying to kind of figure out and say, wait a minute, man, I'm Jeff Bezos. But at the house he goes to, everyone sees him as Jeff. Listen, man, you may be worth 160, but in the house we just know you as daddy and we just know you as Jeff. That is a struggle for a guy like him to be able to handle it. Everybody thinks I'm the smartest guy. I'm the most powerful entrepreneur in the world. Look what I've been able to do. Steve Jobs was worth $6 billion. I'm worth 160. I need more attention than this. And then sometimes that attention comes from the outside. And so the challenge becomes growing simultaneously together and trying to keep that together at the same time. It's not an easy thing to do. And what's interesting today is Trump is actually going after him. Trump is not slowing down. Trump is not looking at this saying, I'm not going to go after this guy. Trump is doubling down on Jeff Bezos because, they've had a run-in many, many times. There's a lot of people that say Jeff Bezos has a monopoly with Amazon. This guy's got a monopoly. This is one of the reasons why everybody was saying he's going to move his headquarters to Dallas or Austin or Houston or somewhere in Texas, and he goes closer to D.C. Why? Because his biggest enemy today isn't taxes. Jeff Bezos' biggest enemy today is monopoly laws. And it's going to be interesting if he can fight those monopoly laws. So he needs so many lobbyists. This is one of the reasons why he had to go get Washington Post so he can kind of control a little bit of the media. This is a tactic many people have used. But we'll see what's going to be taking place with that situation. Okay, all right. So anyways, that's that. Let's go into football. Cowboys lost to the Rams. That was pretty obvious. Cowboys lost to the Rams. Ezekiel didn't have the biggest game. By the way, Stephen A. Smith took a easy way out. He was so sick and tired of people taking shots at him that he finally said Cowboys are going to win because he knew if the Cowboys would have won, he said, I told you they're going to win. And if the Rams were going to win, he's okay because he's going to take shots at Cowboys. So either way, Stephen A. Smith kind of took the easy way out. I was disappointed when he didn't really take who he thought was going to win. He knows deep down inside, the Rams were going to win it, and Ezekiel did have a bad game. But the Rams won, and they're going to the next level, which is exciting. And obviously, Saints beat the Eagles, although that one story with Alshon Jeffrey, who dropped the ball, if he would have caught it, there would have been second. I think it would have been second down or third down. They would have still had a shot to go 5 more yards. It wouldn't have been a first down, but the game wouldn't have ended. And they were 1 score away. So Nick Foles could have done his own magic again and come back. And I guess Alshon Jeffrey, right now, the best friend of Cody Parker today is Alshon Jeffrey. Cody Parker is somewhere in the world saying, Jeffrey, I appreciate you so much, man. I missed the field goal as the Bears when we lost. Now the attention is to you. Everybody forgot me as the kicker. Obviously, Chicago Bear fans haven't forgotten about it. But I do know that everyone's attention right now is on Eagles because they won the championship last year. And then obviously it's going to be interesting what happens with Foles versus Wentz. Next year, whether they keep him, they get rid of him, they trade him. And then Pats just crushed the Chargers. Everybody was picking the Chargers. Kellerman said Brady's done. He's not even a top 5 quarterback. And Brady comes back and wins. And then you got Chiefs against Colts. Obviously, Chiefs wins. So now the games are going to be what? Pats against Chiefs, at Chiefs, and then again, Rams against Saints. Where's the game being played at? Is in New Orleans? Oh, they're playing in New Orleans. Okay, so now here becomes a question. I asked a question here from Miranda. I said, Miranda, who do you think is going to win it all? She said what? The Saints. She said Saints. I said, are you picking the Saints because Saints is your favorite team? By the way, we got a bunch of people here from India. I just noticed this. I don't know if you guys follow NFL in India, but in U.S., I can tell you this is a big topic today going on in sports. So then I asked the following question. I said, who do you want to win? Who do you think will win? And who do you think NFL wants to win for the next phase, right? So O'Neill said he wants Saints to win. He said he thinks Brady is going to figure out a way to win. And then he said the NFL probably wants the Rams to win because it's a big market. It's LA. It's new. It's exciting. Good things could happen there. So what do you think? I'm asking you, what do you think? Who do you want to win? Who do you think NFL wants to win? And who do you think is going to win? Who do you want and who's going to win could be the same, but I'm actually pretty curious to know what's going to be taking place with this as this game is taking place. You know, it's not an easy one here. You know, a lot of people are betting against Brady, and Brady's got a chip right now like no other. I don't know if you guys saw the interview, what he said at the end. He says, you know, a lot of people are, you know, considering us as losers, and we're not going to win. So we're looking forward to playing against the Chiefs and seeing what's going to happen to go to the next round. Now, obviously, I think Mahomes is legit. I think he is as real as it gets, and I can't wait to see if he's going to show up. But this is actually one of those playoffs that I think the 4 teams that a lot of people expected to be here, a lot of people probably expected these 4 teams to be where they're at right now. I don't think anybody's surprised. I don't think anybody's sitting there saying, there's no way in the world I am seeing these guys. I think people said Saints. I think people said, you know, Rams, Chiefs, the 1 games with the Rams against the Chiefs. We were in L.A. when that game was going on. We had Kevin Hart. We were playing poker. It's going to be a very, very interesting Super Bowl to see who's going to be winning this one. All right, next, a conversation, a call out to Apple. I want to give a message to Tim Cook here with some thoughts I have about Tim Cook. Gang, I think Apple is facing one big challenge today. I think Apple is facing one big challenge today, and I think this is what it is. I think the whole idea of being extremely creative. I've been an Apple user for a long time. I've had an iPhone for about a decade now, and I've been very loyal to it. And I still haven't seen a phone that's better than an iPhone for me to use, a Droid or anything like that. I know we got a lot of Droid users. But if Apple thinks the cult-like following of not producing a good product going to get the Apple people to keep buying the product over and over and over again, they just had a wake-up call recently, 2 weeks ago. And they're going to keep having wake-up calls if they don't create better products. This is going to be taking place. This is not going to be something where we have all this cash we're sitting on. Because we have all this cash, we're just going to keep buying businesses. See, Apple for the longest time, their campaign was what? Think different. They've been telling the world they think different. And the world who also thinks different has turned on to that. They've been buying their products. But they haven't been thinking different lately. They've been thinking, let's make it a little bit better than Samsung. Let's make it a little bit better than somebody else. That's not thinking different. Let's just make it a little bit better than, you know, these other guys are doing it. And if they don't really get a little bit innovative in the next 6, 12, 24 months, listen, we give so much credit to bigger companies. We sit there and I see so many people give so much credit to bigger companies. Oh my gosh, you know, Apple's always going to be around. Walmart's always going to be around. No, they're not. Amazon's going to play and Walmart has to adjust. Apple is going to have to adjust no matter how much cash they have. If they don't make major adjustments right now, they're going to take a very big hit the way things are going. So I'm hoping Tim Cook. I don't know what the board is going to do with Tim Cook. I think the board may keep Tim Cook for a while. But if Tim Cook doesn't go out there and start making some new progress, new improvements, don't be surprised if in the next 12 to 18 months, Tim Cook is no longer the CEO of Apple. Do not be surprised if somebody else comes and takes his place. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden you see a whole new dynamic taking place there. But I'm curious, what do you think about it yourself with Apple? Are you, for those of you guys that are Apple users, are you pleased with the products they've made in the last year and the progress they've made in the last year, year and a half? How big of a difference is the new iPhone versus the iPhone that was taking place a year and a half ago? I'd be curious to hear from you on what you think about that. All right, next, Elon Musk just announced they're letting go of 10% of their workforce at SpaceX. We're talking 6,000 employees will be let go. We'll see what's going to happen there. They're trying to get a little bit tighter. I don't know if they're trying to land another contract. We'll see what's going to happen that side. Movie-wise, I know Aquaman just hit $1 billion. Mario, you said you saw Aquaman, right?
I loved it.
What, you saw Aquaman? It's pretty good. Miranda, have you seen Aquaman or no? Anybody? You seen it? Good?
He's my new man crush.
Is your new man crush?
Yes.
Let me ask you, was it good or was it great?
Above average.
Above, like a B or a C plus?
I'd say B plus.
You said B plus. You put it in that range? B, B plus? Has Nancy, have you seen it or no? Kai, what do you give it?
Say B.
You say B? Okay, I haven't seen it. Anyways, it did $1 billion.
It's not up at the Marvel level though.
It's not up at the Marvel level in your opinion, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, man, I am so disappointed with the movie industry today. Yet at the same time, there's been a couple good movies. Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought was sick. If you haven't seen it, it was a sick movie, man. That thing was insane. A Star is Born with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, I thought it was great. It can be a chick flick, but also at the same time, even as a guy, I was sitting there in the corner kind of trying to wipe one of my tears away. It was a pretty emotional movie at the end, although they've made it a couple different times. But I thought Vice was pretty good. I know for some of you guys that maybe are not really in politics, but Vice with Christian Bale to me was pretty sick. If you really want to learn a little bit about politics and what dirty power plays takes place in politics, go watch Vice. Christian Bale may be one of the best actors in the world today. The guy's absolutely insane. Not only is he insane because you've seen him lose it a couple times on set. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, you can go watch that. But the guy's an incredible talent to be able to mix it up with so many different people. All right, last but not least, let's do some election talk. And then maybe I'll do some questions for a few minutes. And then we'll go from there. All right, so Instagram, we're not, Mario, are we seeing questions on Instagram or no?
Caleb's checking out.
Caleb is checking out. So why don't you give that to me? Why don't you give this to me? I'll turn it around so I can actually see some of the questions and respond to them. I'll turn the camera around. Let's see if we can do this. All right, now you can see me. Now I can see you. All right, if you got questions, man, you can ask the questions.
Might want to turn the mic.
Turn the mic. Let's see if we can do that. Let me loosen this up. You got to take it out and put it in? Okay. All right, so let's talk about some of this stuff here, and I'll do some questions, and we'll wrap it up. All right, election time. You know, it's pretty interesting. A lot of governors this past week met with the money people of Wall Street in New York. Many governors, they call it the governors. They came down, and they were convinced them. It's like one of these meetings where it's like, hey, here's why I'm running for office, and here's why you got to back me up. They're trying, it's the biggest sale of their career. What it takes to be a president today is $2 billion. That's what it takes. $2 billion. If you got $2 billion, that's your campaign. What it takes to be a president today, or a massive following. So right now, Elizabeth Warren says she's going to be running, okay? Then Mayor Julian Castro said he's going to be running. A few people have already, scheduled their announcement. Kamala Harris, Marianne Williamson. Some who have expressed interest, Joe Biden, which I think Joe, just a few months ago, all of a sudden went on Instagram. I said, I commented, if you're on Instagram, that means Joe Biden's running for office. 6,000 comments later, people responding saying, didn't think of it that way. Why would Joe Biden get on Instagram in his mid-70s? Joe Biden's getting on Instagram because he's about to run for office. He's going to announce it anytime soon. And we'll find out that this, by the way, Instagram, how you doing? I missed you. You guys been good? Tupac says hi, and I say hi right next to him. We had a real good conversation to get in that painting. I don't know if you see it or not. So, Bloomberg, if he runs, it'll be very interesting out of New York. Mayor of Bloomberg is worth like $45 billion. So we're already used to entrepreneurs, and now somebody from New York. We're used to somebody from New York. And he's got the mayor aspect. Oh my gosh. If those debates take place, New York versus New York, swagger, that's going to be some heavyweight type of debates that people will be looking forward to. Cory Booker, De La Hoya kind of said, I may be running, which will be fun. Eric Holder, Angelina Jolie said she may be running. That's pretty interesting. Angelina Jolie, daughter of John Voight. Beto O'Rourke from Texas. He may be running. Good-looking guy, posture. He's like the Caucasian Barack Obama that may make a run at it. He almost beat Ted Cruz. Sanders and Hillary Clinton. A lot of Republicans are hoping Hillary Clinton runs, but we'll see what's going to happen there. And in candidates that the world would like to see run, obviously Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. You got Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama, Comey Popovich, Sheryl Sandberg, Zuckerberg. Can you imagine if Zuckerberg ran for office? Think about it this way. So he runs for office, right? And imagine all the Facebook ads that everybody controls. He brings everybody's down, right? They give like 1% viewership, and all of his ads are 100%. You and I, every morning that we wake up, my name is Mark Zuckerberg. I endorse this message. From morning till night, he controls Instagram, he controls Facebook. Imagine the influence if he actually ran for office. 1.7 billion, I think it's like 2.2 billion users today on Facebook, not including Instagram. If he was to actually run for office, that would be a very, very interesting thing if that were to take place. Anyways, having said that, it's about to get ugly. It's about to get dirty. This may be, last election was very, very ugly. I have a feeling this one's going to be 10 times uglier campaign than we've ever seen before, because everybody's going off the last campaign knowing that Trump, the way he did it, he went at everybody. Pocahontas, low energy jab, all these jabs that he had at everybody. You better believe everybody knows that if they go at it this time, they have to come that strong. So for 2.5 years, people have been preparing on the assault they're going to put on Trump in these debates. Democrats, and Trump's ready for it as well. All I can say is, a heavyweight matchup of Foreman against Ali, Frazier against Ali, Tyson Holyfield, Mayweather, Canelo, or Pacquiao, or any of the stuff. We're about to experience that in the next 18 months. And if you're into politics, you're into competition, you're into debates, get ready to see a lot of, mic drop type of videos that get 68 million views, 28 million views, 42 million views. Everybody's right now preparing their one-liner. Everybody is preparing their one-liner on what they're going to be saying. So last but not least, for those of you guys that have registered for Valuetainment, the Vault Conference, can't wait to see you guys. Again, CEO package is completely sold out. Founder package is going left and right. Every day people are buying the founder package. Be sure to go by and register for your tickets. The conference is going to be somewhere around 103 days away. I don't know what the exact date is today. 100 days away of the Vault Conference here in Dallas. 3 days we'll be spending time together. We'll be announcing some new guests here soon as well. But if you have not registered, this will be the most important conference for entrepreneurs in 2019 in Dallas, Texas. 3 days. We'll be covering every strategy possible to scale in good and bad times. We'll talk about your next 3 moves on what you need to do. You will come to this event knowing exactly what your next 3 moves need to be leaving this conference. Clarity on team building and leadership development. We'll talk about raising money, sales, persuasion, problem-solving skills. All of these things we'll be talking about at the Valuetainment Conference. Cannot wait to see you guys. I get messages all the time. To get registered, go to valuetainment.com. If we put a link out there to get registered, go to valuetainment.com. Having said that, I got 12 minutes for questions before I get off to my next meeting. Any questions you got, post right now. I'll address it for you. Is there an online attendance version for the Vault? At this time, we don't have that ability. We don't have that as an option. We want everybody to be live, but I don't know how things could change in the future. But we haven't thought about it right now. Okay, let's see what we got here. What does Patrick think about Uber Elevate coming to Dallas, eVolt, and flying taxis in general? Alex, I think that's the direction we're going. I think technology is going to keep everything that people say there's no way in the world that's going to happen. We're going there. So go back. The best way to see what direction we're going technology-wise, go watch movies 20 years ago. You go watch movies 30 years ago. Go watch, these flying cars. Go watch what was that movie with Tom Cruise where they knew that somebody was about to commit crime before? Minority Report. We're going in the Minority Report direction, just so you know that. I hope you realize that. We're going in that direction where, there's going to be based on searches, like what you search. Like right now, Google knows if somebody is thinking about using ecstasy for the first time. Google knows it. Okay? Why? Think about it. What would you search if you're about to do ecstasy for the first time? Side effects of ecstasy, right? Okay?
Can you die from it?
Can you die from ecstasy, right? Right now, Google knows if you are getting sued, okay? What else was it? What'd you say?
I've heard that Amazon knows if you're pregnant based on what you're ordering.
Yeah, Amazon knows if you're pregnant based on what you owe. But believe me, you know how people don't tell anybody about being pregnant? It's like, I don't tell anybody. Amazon and Google knows you're pregnant before anybody knows you're pregnant, just so you know that. They know it. So they already know your next moves. You go nowadays, you search one thing one time, every ad on every website you go to that pops up. You're like, oh my gosh, it's as if they know what I'm looking at. Yes, it's already that direction. So the whole flying car stuff, we're going to get there in no time. I'm trying to fly myself right now. I'm trying to do I've been going back and forth with a company this morning, all morning since 6 a.m. this morning. I'm trying to fly like the Rocketeer thing, and I want to go 100 miles an hour in air, and I'm trying to get one of these organizations that's willing to sign off a waiver for me to be able to do something like this, but we're still negotiating. I'll let you know when that does take place. Pat, if you were to start over against the 20s financial industry, what step would you take to massive revenue? How do you manage your time effectively, stay informed with the business world handle? Okay, so let's talk about that. How do you stay to be able to track current events on what's taking place? Find 3 to 5 sources that you get content from that you trust. I like Morning Brew, okay? It's an email that they send in the morning that gives you the news. I like Bloomberg. I like Business Insider. And then I go and see what CNN is saying bad things about Republicans. And then I go watch Fox to see what they're saying about Democrats. And that kind of tells me what's going on in politics. And aside from that, my phone, I see what's going on with ESPN. How does one use pain to make you work harder, especially with the environment you have around you? Look, this is the challenge with pain. The more you set aside pain, the bigger it gets. Let me put it to you one more time. You know, if you don't address a bully, he will keep bullying you even more. You have to address the bully. If you have pain, you got to sit down and have a conversation with yourself on this pain and ask what you're going to do to change it, or else this is going to keep showing up. Is it true that you work for Illuminati? Really, did somebody ask that question? Is it true that I work for Illuminati? Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story here. Here's a funny story for you guys. I hope you guys appreciate this funny story. Maybe my dad's not going to like me telling you this story, but I'll tell you this story. So one day my dad sat me down, and this was about a couple years ago because I wrote a book. Anyways, I wrote a book. It's a 96,000 word book, and it's a pretty deep book, very technical, a lot of strange characters. Some of these characters from the painting in the back are there. One of these days, you will hear about this book that I wrote. And so my dad read it. So when my dad read it, he started kind of talking to me in a different way. His treatment was slightly different. I said, Dad, you okay? I mean, what's going on? So one day he says, I want to have a very serious conversation with you. I said, what's that, Dad? He says, you know, you can tell me this. I said, yeah, of course, you're my dad. You're my hero. I said, what's going on? He said, Pat, do you work for the CIA? I said, what was that? He says, look, I know you can't tell me, but you work for the CIA. I'm like, Dad, come on, Dad. He says, no, I'm telling you, do you work for? I said, Dad, I don't work for the CIA. You don't have to worry about me working for the CIA. I'm an insurance guy. I'm an entrepreneur. What do you mean do I work for the CIA? It's just some of the things you talk about, it's a little strange. So maybe you do work for the CIA. So no, I don't work for the CIA. No, I don't work for DEA. No, I don't work for government agency. And no, I'm not part of Illuminati. Although, you know, I had even my employees come the other day saying, Patrick, please tell me you're not going to join the Illuminati. As if I'm being recruited right now publicly by the Illuminati. Okay, all right, let's see what we got here. What do you do in the tough times? Okay, Pat, how to write a book. Would you consider to do business to come to Romania? I would consider come to Romania. I sell courses. Okay, provide free. Ask how much is it, the conference to cover? If you don't mind, you could reply. Michael, the conference to cover, the lowest tickets right now are $9.99 general session. And if you buy, actually no, the lowest is $6.99, $249.99, saying correctly. So go to valuetainment.com for the information. We'll put the link below. And what else? What else we got here? Okay. All right. So having said that, I will go ahead and do one last question. What do you got? Let's do. Did somebody call in? No. All right. Let's do one call in. We'll wrap it up with one call in. Okay. First person that calls this number, I will take your phone call. Okay. You get to ask a question on live. The phone number again. What is our phone number? 747-260-8461. Let me say it again. 747-260-8461. First person that has a reason, you call with a good question, I'll keep you on. But it's the first person that calls in here. Let me see. Hang on one second. We're getting a lot of text messages, what we're getting.
Can we get calls? Yeah, I can get calls.
Let me say the number again. People are saying I didn't say it correctly. Here we go. Chicago, Illinois, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing Patrick.
I'm doing good, man. So what's your question? Good morning. What's your question?
My question is basically concerning the car industry or the automobile industry, man. And we're looking to invest in self-driving cars. My question was, what do you see as far as the impact of self-driving cars on the car industry, on the sales of cars, the manufacturing, and the DMV, and all that?
So you're asking DMV, you're asking registration, you're asking like, okay, so first of all, are you asking me about you investing in it, or asking me how the government's going to feel about it regulation-wise, if they're going to be okay with it? What's your specific question?
Well, my specific is based on what you were saying about the Me Too's and the first.
Yep.
So I'm looking to be a Me Too. I'm looking to be a first to
Yep.
invest in self-driving cars. But my concern is I mean, it's not my concern. I mean, I know the government is basically slowing it down, and big industries, big pockets are slowing it down as much as they can. But I know what will happen in the future, like Minority Report and all that stuff you mentioned. My question is, as a professional as yourself, what do you foresee in the future as far as what's going to happen to those industries? Because car industries and insurance industries, are basically doing their best to stop it or slow it or make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so I'll give you a complete different perspective. Okay, I'll give you a complete different perspective. And by the way, can you hear me off the live, or are you just on the phone right now? Like, did you hang up the live to call me, or are you still on the phone with me right now?
No, I'm on the phone with you because I was watching you from.
So if I turn off the phone, you won't be able to hear the live.
No.
Okay, so I'll just answer the question here with you. This is what I would tell you. By the way, for everybody else that's trying to call here, the number is 747-260-8461. This would be my suggestion to you, okay? This would be my suggestion to you. Number one, if you are serious about wanting to make this move, you have to make a list of all the hurdles that you're going to face if you want to be a first to instead of a me too. If you're trying to be a first to, your number one enemy is going to be regulations, is what your number one enemy is going to be. And the number one thing with regulations is there's going to be a lot of these political people that are linked. So think about it. All these governors that went to New York to meet with these money people, they know they don't have to convince you that they can be a president. They don't have to convince you that they can be president. They have to convince the money people that can be presidents. Does that make sense? They have to sit down with these New York Wall Street deep money type of people to say, hey, I have what it takes to be president, for these money people to say, here's $50 million, let's see what you can do. Here's $100 million, let's see what you can do. Here's $200 million, we'll give you $30 million, let's see what you're gonna do in the first 3 months to create momentum. And then by 3 months, if you do something, then we'll give you more money, right? That's kind of what they're facing today. So number one is your enemies are gonna be those companies that don't want this thing to take place. So they're gonna make the barrier to enter for you to go difficult. So these are the bigger companies, the GMs, the Fords, those guys. They, just like they made Elon Musk, they made his life a living hell, hurting his reputation, everything they could because they wanted everybody to go against them. It's a very strange business, very similar to a bottling company. Like no one can compete with Pepsi or Coca-Cola because most of the bottling companies are controlled by those two companies. So if you want to compete with them, it takes $75 million to create a bottling company, and most people don't have that kind of money. You are going to need somebody on the inside that was working in this industry on the political side that has interest and that believes in you. So you need the right money people. You need somebody on the political side that wants to support you, who has influence. The other day I spoke to somebody who is a very, 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 very higher up, politically connected guy in the insurance world. Okay? Very. I won't give the name, but he's very higher up. And we had a conversation together, and I told him I have a few ideas on what I want to see take place in the insurance industry. And he came back, and this is what he told me. He says, I am retiring 3 months from now, is what he said.
Wow.
So what is he saying? He's saying 3 months from now, I'm going into private. I'm no longer public. Okay. When he goes private, then he and I can talk about what my ideas are. You have to see somebody right now that's going from public to private. They get a lot of influence on the public side, but they're still broke. They don't have a lot of money, so they go on the private side to make their money. You got to find those contacts. Who are those top 10 most influential people? Get with them first. And if you get one of those guys in your corner, the technology side, you can find people that have the talent and the brains to be able to make this. That's not going to be the problem. Your biggest hurdle is going to be politics and lobbyists and those guys that are going to give you a hard time. I don't know if this made any sense to you or not.
Oh, it made sense. Made sense totally.
So that'd be my first move. Anyways, what's your name? Give us your name.
John Max.
Brother, great question. I'm going to go to the next call here before we wrap up. Great question, though. Thanks, buddy. All right, we got a caller here from San Francisco. What's your name? Tell us your name and your question.
Hey, what's going on? Patrick, first of all, I want to say thank you. And my question is, I'm a blue-collar worker. I make 6 figures out here in San Francisco, but I'm ready to become an entrepreneur. I don't know exactly what steps I got to take. If you could just give me, like, a few tips of advice I don't even know what industry I want to get into, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so this is what I would tell you. But by the way, we gave the number. I'm getting like hundreds of calls right now. You keep hearing the messages. And I keep hanging up, by the way, and it keeps ringing back in. Okay, so can you go back on the live so I can answer this question for you? Matter of fact, let me ask you a couple questions first. What's your name, by the way?
My name is Juan Cabrera.
Juan Cabrera. That's a baseball name, isn't it? Juan Cabrera. Where are you from, Juan? Where's your family from?
I'm a first generation. Actually, we're from Mexico, and we immigrated out here to San Francisco. But, yeah.
What part of Mexico?
Guadalajara.
Okay, got it. So right outside of Jalisco. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you have any kids?
I have a son, and I got a wife.
And how old is your son? Your 4-year-old?
5-year-old.
Okay, 4 or 5-year-old. And is he going to private school or public school?
Public school.
Okay, and do you have savings set aside?
Just a few grand, nothing crazy.
You're making 6 figures, but you have only a few grand. So how many months of expenses do you have saved?
Maybe like 1 month.
Okay, so look, you got a wife and you got a kid. So for me to get on here on the phone and tell you, look, quit everything you got and go get into a business, I wouldn't recommend it. You got to replace a 6-figure income and a wife and a kid. You know, and by the way, what's your work schedule like? How many hours you working? Tell me your schedule. What time you start? What time you go home? How many hours you working per week?
My schedule's sporadic because sometimes I work 5 days a week. 5 days a week. Sometimes I work 1 day a week.
But you're still making your 6 figures per year.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I tell you. This is my suggestion to you on what I'd be doing. Oh my gosh, this is like, okay, go back on the live and I'll answer your question for you. Go back on the live and I'll answer your question for you. All right, buddy. You got it, man. You got it.
I appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. Okay, let me hang this up. Okay, this is going to keep calling. It's just going to keep calling. All right, so Juan Cabrera asked a question. He makes 6 figures at his full-time jobs, got a wife, got a 4-year-old kid, and he is wondering what he needs to do to go be an entrepreneur. He's got 1 month of expenses set aside. And so a lot of times you hear people like this and they watch a motivational video and say, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired. I'm going to quit my job and go start my business and I'm going to drop everything. And then all of a sudden, boom, they get hit in the face because they only had 3 months of savings in place. And then that leads to divorce, that leads to issues, that leads to challenges, that leads to fight. And the wife's like, wait a minute, what happened here? Well, I watched this motivational video that told me I should go be an entrepreneur and I just dropped everything. No, number one, let's go through this. Number one, look, I worked a full-time job and I sold on the side and I went and shadowed somebody. The number one thing about wanting to become an entrepreneur, the benefit, the advantage you have is if you can shadow somebody who knows what they're doing. If you could figure out a way to shadow somebody, look, we have a guy named Kai here. Kai, come over here. I want to introduce everybody to Kai. Okay, come over here, show your face. Okay, here's Kai.
What's up?
Kai, can you tell us where you're from?
I'm from Norway.
You're from Norway?
Yeah.
So did you come to America because you live in America or you lived in Norway and you came here?
I have always lived in Norway and I came here.
So can you tell me why you came to the States?
To work under you.
So how did you reach out to us? How did you and I get connected?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. And you sent me a message and you said, you know, I want to work here, and we kept pushing you off, but you would not let go of it. You just kept pushing, right?
It was a long year, but yeah.
It was a long year. I'm like, you know, everybody says, Pat, I want to work here, but he's living in Norway. Says, Pat, don't worry about it. I'll figure out a way to come to the States. I said, okay, sounds good. So finally, he comes to the States. Please grab it. See, we got 120 left here on Instagram, and I'll keep continuing. He came over here to work with us because he saw the value of shadowing. So I said, no problem. I relate to him. I remember being young and wanting to shadow somebody else and seeing the madness. What does it really look like? What is really taking place? What is behind the scenes really going on? By the way, the live's going to shut down here on Instagram. I'll go right back at it to address the question. The number one thing you got to do is find somebody to shadow. Number one. Once you find the right person to shadow, the right habits, the right disciplines to shadow, then from there, part-time, you got to start something. Nowadays, you can start something part-time from your house, from the internet, from anywhere. There are many ways to start a business on the side nowadays. It's not that difficult to start a business nowadays on the side. Whether it's an internet business, whether it's a sales business, whether it's a real estate license, whether it's the insurance license, whether you're going to start learning a new skill set, whether you're going to learn how to sell, whether you're going to learn how to code and you're going to get on Code Academy, whether you're going to learn how to do something else. Like I have a guy right now that cuts my hair, that every time he cuts my hair, he's talking about starting his own new salon, and he's wondering how to do it. And everybody that comes, he's got about 20 people. We talked to him strategically. His 20 richest customers that he cuts their hair, how to bring up the money conversation with them. The live is about to be done on Instagram. Okay, let's end it here. So he's constantly asking that question from me. Pat, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Should I go out there and start my business? Should I go out there and not start my business? And I told him, I said, get a list of the names, set aside your savings, get some people that support you, part-time, start something on the side, start independently, and then make your move. But the biggest thing you got to realize is your savings and somebody you can shadow and something you got to start part-time. I would not go full-on dropping my job and just start something full-time, especially if I have a kid and I'm married and I only have 1 month of expenses saved. The magical number you want, if you're just going to completely drop everything and go be an entrepreneur, is you got to have 12 months of your expenses saved. 12 months, which means if your expenses are $6,000 a month, you need $72,000. Do you know how many people follow another entrepreneur that doesn't have their money saved and savings in place? And they're like, oh my gosh, I like this girl so much. I had a girl that was working and she was like, man, I'm going to go out there and do this. Everybody liked her, but she was broke. Everybody who followed, boom, everything collapsed. And they're like, I love her. She's amazing, but she has no savings. And because of that, she can't pay my salary. Look, I love you, but I got to go get a job. Everybody left her. She collapsed and she came back for a job and asked us for a job. And we said yes. We liked her, but another one that did it, we said no. Because things like that, you can't just make a decision and go out based on excitement. You got to be ready as well. So to anybody that was watching this, if you're married with kids, don't just jump the gun and go out there and do it. If you're single, you live with your parents, somebody else is covering your expenses, you can go 12 months without having to make anything and your parents are still going to support you, go for it. Go do it. I don't care what it is. And by the way, if you're going to work 60, 70, 80, 90 hours and you have the luxury to do it, go out there and get that part done. But if you don't, be a little bit more selective on your decision-making process on going live and quitting what you're doing and being an entrepreneur next. Again, what I like the most is to process issues like this. Look, the moment we started processing issues, viewership went up over there and it went up over here. It kept dropping, then we did Q&As, it went up. I'll do one more question here, and maybe what I want to hear from your feedback for next week, if we do the live again, what formatting would you like to see live take place next Monday on YouTube? So again, make your calls. I'll do one last question. Great call, Juan Cabrera. We got so many callers came in. Again, I'll give you the number for last call here, 747-260-8461, 747. We got one from Sweden. Okay. Sweden, how are you?
Hi, is this Patrick?
This is Patrick. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Sharik and I'm 16 years old, and I've been watching a lot of your videos on YouTube and all that. I just wanted to ask that, what high skills would you recommend to someone who's a teenager and doesn't have a job?
What did you say? What high schools? What was the question again?
High income skills.
A
skill that could make me like a 10 grand per month.
What high income skills would I find if I'm 16 years old to make 10 grand a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me.
I have like a huge vision, and I don't want the people around me to lose it. So I really want to start right now because I have the passion, the interest, all that. I got it. I know that, but I just don't know how to start.
Okay. So tell me this: who are you in high school? Tell me in about 30 seconds who you are right now. Like if I'm friends with you, if I go to school with you, what's your reputation? Who are you?
I am socially well known, but my friends, they make a lot of fun of me, and I'm not like the most popular guy in the school. But I've done a lot of stuff from my age. When I was 14, I did my first job at a programming company. I made an app called Albert. It's basically a digital math tutor. And then I've worked at 2 companies, and I've racked over like 2 years of experience. So
let me ask you, they make fun of you for what? Do they make fun of you because you say you're going to be a millionaire one day, like things like that, or why do they make fun of you?
Yeah, that's what they make fun of.
Okay, that's perfect, man. Listen, that's a great sign.
Dreams and all that kind of
Oh, that's a great sign, man. This is great. You're going places, baby. Let them keep making fun of you. One day you're going to write about all of them.
They make fun.
Yeah.
I feel guilty. I don't know what.
No. Don't sweat it. Okay. All right, so we're not going to do a therapy session. I'm going to get into answer your question for you here with what you asked me about a high income at your age. So go back on the live. I'm going to hang up on you. I'm going to answer the question on the live, okay? Go back on the live. I'm going to answer your question for you. Hey, keep at it. Keep your head up. Everything's going to work out. Great job. Bye-bye. All right. Okay, we got Sherrick here from Sweden asked the question. He's 16 years old. He's been bullied by his peers, making fun of him that, oh my gosh, he's trying to be a millionaire one day, all this other stuff. He made an app called Albert. What would I be doing if I'm 16 years old today? What is the most important skill set at 16 years old? Look, if I'm 16 today, if I'm 14 today, if I'm 13 today, if I'm 12 today, hell, if I'm 10 today, my son is 6, about to be 7. You don't think I'm going to get this guy ready on a few different things on making money in the next 2-3 years? You better believe this kid's going to know a few things to do to make money for the Bet David family and for his own future. So here's a couple things. Look, there are so many accounts on Instagram that have 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 followers that are led and owned by 14-year-olds. Let me say this one more time. There are so many accounts on Instagram owned by 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds that have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, a million followers. And what they do is they go to motivational people and they'll say, you want shout outs? And they'll message 500 people a day. Do you want shout outs? 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 And they'll send these messages. And by the way, for me, they'll send me messages. And they'll say, my 12-hour shout out and story is $70. If you want me to post it in my feed, it's $100 for 12 hours. It's, $200 for 24 hours, whatever the rates are. And someone's going to say yes, or someone's going to say no, or someone's going to negotiate with you. If you send 200 of those messages out, and all of a sudden 2 of them say yes, or 20 of them say yes, you're making $500 a day. You're making $600 a day. You're making $1,000 a day if you keep increasing these accounts. Anybody can do that. So many of these Instagram accounts today are ran by young 12, 13, 14-year-old kids to learn how to make money. That's number one. Number two, learning how to do click funnels at 13, 14 years old. My gosh, these click funnels for 12, 13, 14-year-olds, there are so many ways to make money with a product to come out with. When we were in high school back in the days, we had a kid who was a genius with math. The guy was absolutely brilliant. His dad gave him $10,000 to invest into stocks. This kid turned that $10,000 within 6 months into $160,000. And everybody talked about him. But that was then, that was 1994. He was 13, 14 years old when he did this, by the way. Today, back then, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of that stuff. For us, it was AOL chat and chat rooms. That was pretty much it. There was nothing else going on. There are so many ways for 12, 13, 14-year-olds to make money on the internet today. It's nuts. I would be picking up the language is what I'd be doing. I'd take a channel like Valuetainment, and I would literally take out what do you call it, a journal. Oh, by the way, this, for those guys that go to the Vault conference, you're going to get the Vault manual if you haven't registered yet. But I'd have a journal. I'd grab a journal, and on this journal, I would study every single thing on Valuetainment. Everything. Notes. Scaling, systems. I would be studying everything with sales. I'd be studying 3 names on social media that are creating content on what they're doing, and I'd be obsessed about studying all this stuff. Some is for mindset, some is for strategy, and some may be motivation. So pick 3 different names. One may be mindset, one may be strategies on how to do things, and one may be motivation. Motivation is like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. Let me get to work. And then motivation goes away. I don't know what the hell to do. Oh my gosh, these are the how-tos. Oh, I can do these things. Let me try this. I just used this message. This worked. He said to say this. I just said this and it worked. He said to do this on the internet. I just did this and it worked. And a mindset, oh, okay, that guy's trying to do this. Okay, I got it on the competition side. So if you can have 3 different outlets on getting that feedback, a point for yourself, and then from there, the rest is history. Today, if you're a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid, honestly, if you're 12, 13, 14 years old today watching this, and you are not making $2,000 a month minimum on the internet, you're not really putting anything to use. You're spending way too much time doing nothing. There are so many easy ways to make a couple $1,000s a month on the internet as a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old. It is that easy today. I had a kid yesterday send me a message from Iran who is 13 years old. I wish I could take it. I'm going to try to find his screenshot and post his name on my Instagram stories and Snapchat stories just to give him credit. A 13, 14-year-old kid in Iran made $60,000 US last year. Let me say this again. He made $60,000 US last year. Can I get a phone to do a calculation? Here's how much $60,000 in US is when the Toman is 13,000 Toman right now. Here's what it is. $60,000 US times 13,000 Toman. This kid, last year in Iran, made $780 million to man. That's a lot of money in Iran. He made $780 million to man. 13, 14-year-old kid made that money off the internet in Iran. But his customers are not from Iran. The guy that I sat down with, Divyang Turakia in India, he made $1.3 billion in his 20s, early 30s. And none of his customers were from India. All his customers were all over the place. Because when he started his business, out of the 1.3 billion people living in India, only 50,000 people were active on the internet in India. Let me say this one more time. Out of 1.3 billion people, only 50,000 people were active in India. And this guy made $1.3 billion on the cover of Fortune magazine because he learned how to get customers outside of India. So no matter where you're living it right now, minus a couple countries that are regulating your internet, North Korea, Venezuela, although I have a lot of Venezuelan people that follow this and North Koreans that follow this, they follow Valuetainment on an illegal platform, not a legal platform. And by the way, for some of you guys that are wondering who this Divyang Turakia is, just can we type in his name, Divyang Turakia? Mario, type in his name, Divyang Turakia. Maybe put the link in the comment section for you guys to watch this. Simple guy. He and his brother made $1.3 billion building companies, and he used to be a video game guy. He used to take video games apart and build it up for himself. Anyways, look, what I want to hear from you is a couple things. One, what you experienced the last 30 minutes of this call, 30 minutes of this live, is what you're going to experience for 3 days at the Vault Conference if you haven't registered yet. It'll be the most important conference of 2019 for entrepreneurs, marketers, salespeople, startup CEOs that will have 3-day conference in Dallas, Texas. If you haven't registered, click on a link below in the comment section. Let me put it here as well on Instagram. I do know that Caleb is doing it too, but I'm going to do it too. I can't wait to see you because when we go into, and by the way, this is one of the reasons why CEO Package sold like this, because a 3-hour session that we were going to have, we're sending a whole set of questions to the CEOs. We're sending a whole set of things that will be wanting to hear from their size of their business so we can get our questions in place. But if you haven't registered, do so. And secondly, tell me about the formatting of the live we did today. I'd like to hear from you. Send us an email and tell us what you like the formatting about today's live and what you would like to see this, whether you would like to see this continue next week on, and if yes, how would you like to see this continue next week? We did 3 calls. We answered some questions here. Maybe some of the formatting we'd like to hear from you. Send us an email, info@valuetainment.com. Again, info@valuetainment.com. And if you got anything else, you want to send us a text to follow any updates, any questions you may have about the Vault, the Valuetainment Conference coming up, send a text to 747-260-8461. Again, 747-260-8461. Take care, everybody. Have a killer week this week. Be the first to do something this week. Not just me too. Be the first to do something this week. Take care. Bye-bye.